What is that saying from Nemo? Just keep swimming? We'll go with that.
I love that. Okay.
How you know we're on the same page? Because I was thinking something along the lines of go and keep pushing or something.
Hi everyone. Firstly, thank you so much for having us on. It's amazing to meet you and to learn more about your platform. And just a bit about me. Hi, I'm Hira. I'm co-founder of the Hybrid Tours. I'm friends with Sibu, and I have a background in humanitarianism. It's always really interesting when people ask this question because like I don't know what to say. I am a third culture kid, so I grew up across Pakistan, the United Kingdom, and also Saudi. So I'm currently in Saudi. So a lot of that has very heavily influenced, I guess, my travel and kind of what we're doing with hybrid tours. And aside from that, aside from the hybrid tours, I also founded a platform called Our World 2, which is a narrative storytelling platform to rehumanize the narrative around refugees and displaced communities around the world. And I think that's all I can come up with right now. I'm going to pass to Cebu.
There'll be more, I'm
Great.
sure. Hi, I am Sibu, and I am the other half of the Hybrid Tours, the other co-founder of the Hybrid Tours. I'm originally from Costa Rica. I'm the daughter of a migrant and a refugee, and so
Mhm.
travel and just being aware of the world has been a part of me and part of my DNA basically from as long as I can remember basically. But for the last 20 years I've been living and traveling around the world. I've had the opportunity to live in a multitude of countries, pick up languages, live in different places, and over the last I would say yeah, about 5 years I also started creating travel content, but this was more so here and I will get to that later. We met during our master's degree in humanitarianism. What I like to call for those who are not familiar, who are not from this field, I normally call it international conflict and human rights for those who are not part
Yeah.
of this field. But before that, my background is in economics, and so I've somehow found a way to weave my travel storytelling, but also geopolitics and the state of the world into the stories that I tell from all around the world. So that's what I do. And the name of my platform and my personal brand is Go Global with Cebu.
I love it. I love it. Sibu, it's kind of freezing sometimes your connection. Oh, she disappeared. I think she knows. Do you remember how or when the bug of traveling sparked in you? How like traveling the world or knowing new places, new cultures, like even became a thing for you?
So, like I said, my father was a refugee, so I'm mixed. I'm half Costa Rican, half Polish, and so I've been aware of the world and the fact that my family came from different places as long as I can remember, and that could have just been it. But for whatever reason, I think curiosity was very
Mm.
much ingrained in us growing up, and so I remember from a very young age already getting a hold of encyclopedias and sitting down, and my mom would beg me to
Yeah.
go out and play, and I was like, no, I want to sit down and be a geek and memorize all these random countries and capitals and rivers that I had no idea if I would visit one day or not. But I think that's,
I
and I
love
would
that.
sit down and write all of these lists down and be completely obsessed with the world. And I was maybe 7 or 8 years old. So I've always, and I knew I wanted to see the world and I knew I wanted to travel. And it was just a matter of when, basically. So
I
I
love
knew
it.
I was going to come to this point. I just didn't know how long it would take me, to be honest. But a love for the world has always been there, always.
I love that. Yeah.
I think for me, slightly echoing, I guess, Cebu's experience, but my parents are also, well, immigrants. They moved from Pakistan to the United Kingdom. So we had very early memories of traveling between Pakistan and the UK because we had family in both countries. And then
Yeah.
eventually we moved to Saudi Arabia, and Saudi Arabia has a very vibrant, I should say, expat or immigrant community. And all the schools are very mixed. Like you'll have people from like across the world, and you'd be in classes with people who are like
Mm.
Dutch, who are South Korean, who are Chinese, who are from all across the Levant or even the Khalij countries. And when you were growing up around like that cultural melting pot, like you get very curious about the world. And I think it was always just something we kind of did. Because I remember my mom always told the story, like my sister was like 6 months old and we took her to Egypt and she changed her like diaper on like a pyramid. And I'm like, I don't know if she's gonna get in trouble for that now, but she always tells people that story. So I think growing up, like traveling was just something we kind of did. And my
Mhm.
parents really loved it as well. Like my mom also has travel book. So whenever we had the school holidays, she would always be planning like the next trip. And then my sister eventually took over. Never did I think that I would get to the point of also having to plan itineraries because it was never my skill set. It was always my younger sister who was like who's 7 years younger than me. But even when she was like literally 8, she was like drafting all these itineraries for the entire family. And now she's like, I can't believe you're doing it now. I'm like, well, I guess just how life works. But yeah, so the travel bug was like kind of always been there in various
Yeah.
fonts throughout my life.
I love that. Yeah, I think that in my case was also when I was young, but my stories were more, or the stories that I listened were more, my family were they didn't really travel that much. So I guess the stories were about like history they read in books, and just telling me about Greece and about all those things, and I just wanting to go. I was never good with history, so I just prefer to find a way to go and know the place by myself. Yeah, I love it. Hi, Siu. Oh, my next question is, I'm guessing that from that first spark to today, your way of traveling maybe has shifted or evolved. How would you define your way of traveling today in your own words?
I actually don't. I don't think. I know Sibu's answer is going to be much better because mine, I guess you can literally just call it generic. I'm not going to say I do something that's like off the beaten path when I personally travel with family. Like the only thing we would do is kind of like, I guess, cultural immersion activities. So we try to find the history of a country beyond
Okay.
just like what is in like guidebooks and stuff. And like that's been something even my parents have wanted to have done for a long time. Like we would read up on the
Hmm.
history or books about a country beforehand. Um, and yeah, we just tried it. I guess off the beaten path travel has kind of been a family trait because I remember back in like 2006, we went to Syria and Jordan from Saudi. We like took a road trip. We drove through Saudi to go through Jordan and Syria and came back down.
Yeah.
And I don't think many people were doing it then because people were like, oh yeah, we go to Dubai, we'll go to like the major
Yeah.
metropolitan hubs. Like it wasn't really a thing to do road trips back then. And then when we came back, everyone's like, oh, where did you guys go? We're like, oh, we went to Syria. And they're like, but why? And I'm like, my parents like, what do you mean, but why? Like it's like there's so much history and civilization there
Mm.
that we wanted to learn about it firsthand, which is pretty amazing to experience. So I guess off the beaten path, but also pretty generic after beyond that. It wasn't until much later on that I met Sibo and learned more from her that I was like, oh, there's a name for all of these things too. But I think that's how you can probably sum up my travel.
I love it, and I ask always like to describe because for me also I can't really find a tag, let's say, or a
Yeah.
common a name for the way I travel. So I just sometimes you don't find like a fixed tag. You just need to explain in a different way with your own words. But I love what you say, like looking for places. I don't know, led by curiosity for history, right?
Yeah.
It's and see you.
So my journey is quite different. So, like I said, I left Costa Rica in 2005. So that was over 20 years ago. And I moved to China on my own. I was 17. Obviously, I had no idea what I was getting myself into. And there were no smartphones, no internet, no absolutely nothing. So a lot of it came down to me figuring things out on my own. But even then, from the moment I stepped foot in China, I was free. I was already an adult, even though I wasn't officially 18. And I worked so much, and everything I saved was for travel. But travel was very different back then. And that's what people don't realize. They don't realize how easy it is to travel now. Oh my God. Because back then, nothing, absolutely nothing. I mean, sure, a couple of blog posts here and there, but booking
Yeah.
and all these things, nothing. And so you had to basically write things down, figure things out on your own, show up in a place. I remember I went to Mongolia like 17, 18 years ago, And maybe you would find more information on blog posts about, France, the US, maybe even Thailand, but not Mongolia. Obviously, not Mongolia. So I
Yeah,
remember showing up in Mongolia, and this is just to describe
true.
how it all started. We showed up in Mongolia, and you basically have to find a driver and a group of people to split costs and be able to go, because Mongolia is one of the largest countries in the world. It's one of the least densely
Yeah.
populated. It's really difficult to get around. And so for 3-4 days, I would go around from guest house to guest house looking for people who other travelers who wanted to join us and split costs with us. That is completely unheard of nowadays. Nowadays you just go and
Yeah.
get your guide and book an
Mhm.
experience, and that's basically it. And having to be so spontaneous is something that I pretty much still do up to today. And because I travel full time,
Mhm.
I will show up in a place. I normally book the first 2-3 nights just so I can have a place to sleep in, and then that's it. I show up in a place, and then from there on, I speak to other travelers if there are any.
Yeah.
I'll talk to people who live there, locals, to try to figure out what's good, what isn't, and I'll take recommendations from people while on the ground and while I'm already there. And then my
That's
itinerary is
amazing.
completely spontaneous, and I just go with the flow, which I know can be very. A lot of people would have anxiety just listening to this right now, but like I said, it was that's the way it had to be done back then, and that's just the way I'm used to doing it now. And I feel like I like to be spontaneous, and I like to have
Yeah.
room in my itineraries for some flow, because oftentimes I find things to do that probably
Yeah.
would have never been able to find online. So
I love it. A very adventurous soul. Yes, I love that. So wait, my next question is about Hira tours, and I'm just finding a beautiful balance here, the energy of Hira tours. But I want to learn about the behind the scenes, how Hira tours even came to life. How did you two came together and thought we need to do this?
Okay, okay, I guess I'll go. Um,
you're unmuted, so I thought you were speaking.
okay,
I'm sure you have
sorry.
this on Valeria later. So
So yeah, the hybrid tours. It was so first, I guess we have to start with the origin story of where me and Sibu
Yes.
met. We met during our master's degree in humanitarianism, conflict, and development. And so essentially it was a remote program, but we had like 2 or 3 sessions in over 2 years that we had to be in Bath or the University of Bath. And where
Yeah.
we met like our cohort. So literally during that entire time, we maybe had three weeks together, if that, give or take a couple of days. And then we met there, and I remember the first time I'm like, "Oh, she was my ear," and I knew her name obviously, but I don't remember talking to her much the first time. So I'm like, "Oh, she's really quiet. I'll talk to her later." We ended up traveling to Jordan, and like this is a bit of a long answer, but like we went to Jordan, and
Yeah.
we kind of this was part of a university trip, and Sibu was also there, and we kind of
Yeah.
were learning about different humanitarian interventions because that was like the main aim of the trip. But we basically went to a camp there called Camp Azraq, where they were keeping or housing Syrian refugees. And it was in the middle of the desert and in corrugated sheets of metal. And like, it was, I don't know who thought this was a good idea, putting people in the middle of a desert in metal sheets, but someone did. So an engineer was basically there saying that they were trying to cool down the houses, and I asked him a question. I was like, basically, like, why don't you ask the people who are living here? Like, there's thousands of people in this camp. They can tell you what the issues they're facing are, and they can also maybe help you
Yeah.
improve their own living standards. And then he turns around and he was like, verbatim, he says, all the good ones are gone, as in all the good refugees are gone. And that immediately got me thinking about like, how are
Ah,
you classifying who is a good or a bad
yeah.
refugee? And that, like that same night, I
That's
kind of
right.
started our world too, because I was like, if we keep hearing about the world from one perspective, which is the media, the politics, we're all just going to end up hating each other, and we're never going to realize we have more in common than we have, like that we have a lot in common, basically. And then later on, kind of as a mirror image of that, I guess you could call the pilot hybrid tours to Bosnia, and I organized it in a way that all my classmates, including Sibu, who came on the trip, would basically experience Bosnia from like this
Mhm.
perspective of, yes, it's in a beautiful country, the people are absolutely amazing, the food, my favorite, some of my favorite cuisine in the world, but then also realized like there was the Bosnian genocide that happened from 1992 to 1995 through learning from people who lived it, because it's completely different when someone has lived through an
Yeah.
experience versus someone you're reading in a textbook. And I remember that trip. I had read before, like beforehand, about a lot of the theory, but then we got to meet the people who were literally quoted in that book. And I just remember that experience staying with me because you don't forget those stories. And then like later on, I think it was after we finished our masters, but a couple of like Sibu was like, Hira, like, hey, do you want to do this again? And I'm like, what do you mean? Do what again? And she was like, remember what we did in Bosnia? We could do that again, but in other places. I'm like, I like this. I like where it's going. Tell me more. And that was like the first conversation I guess we had like about the hybrid tours and to
It's
start it.
amazing.
And now Sibu,
But that trip
I
was
love it.
crazy because yes, I know I'm regarded as a well-traveled person, but let's be real. Now, with this much technology, it is so incredibly difficult to be able to just simply connect, to talk to people. We travel and it's super easy to travel, but we live in bubbles. I'm gonna go to a restaurant, I'm gonna look up which restaurant Google reviews, Google Maps suggests. I'm going to book something, I'm going to book it online. We live in a very, very easily curated bubble. And again, travel has never been as easy as it is today. But are we really, really having dialogues? Are we having encounters? Are we meeting with the communities that we're visiting? We're not. We're really not. And at most, maybe I'll book a little walking tour and I'll speak to the guide. That's one person through my encounters.
Yeah.
And so the way we look at travel, yes, it's so accessible, but also very limited in the way that we've created this bubble because of technology. And so for me to be able to go on that trip that Hira curated, that was a life-changing trip for me because we study a lot, obviously, in our master's degree, and as I'm sure you can tell by now, we're geeks, and so we love learning and reading about different issues that happen all over the world. But I learned more in those 8-10 days in Bosnia that I could have done in a whole year of our master's degree. To be able to sit down, like Hira mentioned, with the people that were mentioned on the book, people that had written the books that we were reading, to meet with them in person, to hear their stories in person. And if there's something I've said before, is that, okay, sure, you can travel to a country and you can hear about when the country was founded and what year something happened and this and that, but realistically speaking, you'll forget all those little tidbits and facts within
Yes.
3 to 6 months at
Yes.
most. But you will never ever forget the stories and the encounters that you have while traveling. And that's what Hira brought to life with her hybrid tour. And so, of course, that was in 2019. We all know what happened shortly afterwards. So whatever ideas we had to be paused. And then once the pandemic started lifting again, that's when I officially approached Hira and I was like, what do you think about doing this officially?
I love it. I love the story. I love how it came to life. I love the previous experience. That's amazing. That's amazing. Like I'm excited to join a tour one day, one of the hybrid tours. Oh, I love the story. And if you've got to describe like the vibes or the essence of hybrid tours in 3 words, which 3 words would you choose? Each of you can give.
I'll go first. Community, immersion, belonging.
I love that.
for me, it would be immersion. I don't know if you said immersion, but immersion, building bridges and also friendships, because I feel at the end of it is a platform for people who believe that tourism can be a force for good. And when you meet other like-minded individuals, it's very hard not to become friends.
Yes. Oh,
And that's
I
why I
love
also mentioned belonging because growing up, I felt very isolated. Like I said, I
it.
love learning about the world, and growing up, I was shunned aside and pretty much bullied
Yeah.
because of the things that I liked. And so I never thought in my wildest dreams that I would grow up to co-found a company where we would find like-minded travelers who wanted to learn about the same things that we did and who were as passionate about the world as we were. And so it just brings this sense of belonging no matter where you're from, because we all enjoy the same things, and that's the kind of community that we've built, and it's really exciting.
I love it. I really love everything you're saying. And if we keep talking about hybrid tours, so what is like exactly about you? Like you create the experiences. How does hybrid tours work? Or how is it exactly how the platform about or the platforms that you're creating, the experiences?
So I guess how we explain the hybrid tours is we combine the best of travel with social impact. So we
Mhm.
curate this entire itinerary. We only partner with community-led organizations, tour guides, tour providers, artisans, hospitality. Everything has to be from the countries we're visiting and owned locally by the community. So
Mhm.
that's the first thing. But secondly, we also try to not only combine like I wouldn't say things that are offered on a standard tour, but like the best sites and how beautiful a country is. And we visit those. But then we also want to learn about the context and what kind of shaped a country and how its people are and kind of what more about them, to learn more
Mhm.
about them. So we then kind of go out of our way to connect with local artisans and we connect with activists and we want to hear from their own insights about their country, how
Yes.
history shaped it, how personal narratives are still being used, and also to look beyond the statistics because we operate in countries like, for example, Bosnia, Pakistan, Jordan. There's often heavy stereotypes associated with these countries. And then when you're
Yeah,
talking to
true.
people from the countries themselves, they get to define themselves on their terms. It's not what we think they are, it's not what our guests think they are. What do you want to tell people about your countries? What do you want people to realize about your countries? And I think that part is very badly missing because we can see right now, even with the state of the world, that if you let other people define you, there's going to be interventions. There's foreign interventions. There's going to be things like, oh, Muslim women need saving, or there's going to be like this narrative of good versus bad countries. And like that is really what we wanted to address at the end of it, that we, again, I'm
Yeah,
saying we have more in common than we're led to believe. And that's kind of what we want the entire experience to kind of lead back to.
I love that. Do you want to add something, Sibu? No.
Yeah, and I think the most important part is that we don't try to enforce what we think is best, if like in terms of sightseeing or anything like that, for example. So of course, when, for example, Jordan is a great example. Jordan is quite popular, probably our most popular destination, or at least the most well-known destination. People have a certain idea of the places that they want to visit, and of course we want to take our guests to those places. But what's important is that we also curate these itineraries and all the work that we do together with them. This is not us enforcing and telling people, I think, we think our guests should go here, here, and there. No, we are co-creating these projects, these programs together. And so the people we work with, they're able to make suggestions. You know what? We think it'd be great if you visited this little town that we might have never heard of before because we don't live there, right? But they know best
Yeah.
and they think, no, you know what? You need to come to this place. You need to visit this organization. You need to visit this castle, this site. People are going to love it. And so that allows us to also think outside of the box
Yes.
and rely on the people that we work with, because at the end of the day we operate in a multitude of countries and we cannot be experts in all of them. And so that's why we work together with these experts and we make sure that their voices are heard and their opinions and their advice is also taken into account when we co-create these programs with them and these tours.
It's amazing. I love the word co-creation. Like I'm a fan of co-creation as well. I love what you're sharing on your page. The mission is disrupting the travel industry. So what's one change you are hoping to see in the travel business or in travelers' choices, like maybe this year or in the near future? What's one thing that you would really love to change?
I think it's already happening and it's been happening for quite a while, but I think we as a collective are starting to become more aware of the impact that we're having while traveling. And I'm not saying everybody's catching on, but part of the
Mhm.
reason why we decided to launch this company is because everything around us, whether that's market trends analysis, everything points to people actually starting to care more about the world, but not just the world. And I don't mean this from an environmental perspective, but also about the
Yeah.
communities that we're getting involved in and how to make sure that we give back to those communities, but do it in a sustainable and responsible way as well. Because just traveling somewhere doesn't necessarily mean that people who live there, the communities that we're visiting, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to be benefiting from our visit. And if we look at travel from a very superficial point of view, we might think, okay, I'm going, that's already good enough. It's not actually. Travel has to be done in certain ways. And so not only are we encouraging that, but we have come to realize that more and more people are catching on to this and they want to start traveling in a different way.
Yeah.
I mean, mine is going to be one word, but it's a whole concept, decolonize. And I will say, because like when you talk about tourism and travel, like historically, or what I've come to learn through Sibu and just reading in general, it's what, like, picking up what Sibu was saying, is who benefits from tourism. How much of the money that we pay actually makes it back to the communities we're visiting? Because otherwise, it just seems like you're going in and you're essentially observing people like they're on display. And I just think that's grotesque, to be honest with you. If you look at the history of colonization, if you look at the fact that there used to be human zoos, if you look at the fact that there's so many countries now, in Puerto Rico, you can have Jamaica, where locals, people in the community, they can't access their own beach. Like, it would offend me no end. Like, there is some random, I'm going to say what random white person, but could be any foreigner, who gets access to a beach that's in my country and I can't go there because it's been bought like by a Marriott or a Hilton or something. So when you talk about what I would really like to see change, it's that benefit, because if communities are not benefiting, you have no business being there, to be honest with you, because your sense of self-discovery, or your sense of, oh my God, undiscovered bucket list destinations, it does not weigh heavier than people's everyday reality. And that really, really needs to change, because otherwise they're just backdrops for your life and you just have like this main character syndrome, which really needs to end, unfortunately. And a lot of just in travel in general. So I would just say decolonize and treat people like human beings. And if you wouldn't want something done in your own community, don't do it in someone else's.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. And with what Sibu was also saying, I think that when you are already like talking with other travelers and nomads, like in this world, I'm going to say, like you start listening more about traveling in a responsible way, in a different way. But I'm not sure that everyone is thinking about this yet. Like if I talk with my surroundings or my friends or people who are not really travelers and nomads, I don't think if they had that chip yet of thinking travel in a different way. So I think that there's still, we just listen to that because we are in this world and we connect with a lot another travelers and nomads. But I still think that there's a lot to do to bring people to this mindset, right? So I love it. Okay, let me check my next question. Okay. Okay, this is for like to know a little bit more about Hira and Sibu. If your life were a book, how would you call this chapter that you are in right now?
That is a really
just for
good
fun,
question.
just for fun.
What is that saying from Nemo? Just keep swimming? We'll go with that.
I love that. Okay.
How you know we're on the same page? Because I was thinking something along the lines of go and keep pushing or something.
We are sharing the book.
Yes, we're co-writing the chapter apparently. Apparently, yeah. No, I mean it honestly, let's be real. Starting a company from scratch with no external funding, no seed funding, absolute no grants. This has come entirely from our own. This has been completely our own creation. We do not have any investors, anything like that. Starting a company, let me tell you, or just having one is not easy work. However, it is the work that we're doing is so motivating, to be honest, and it comes down to this. I had a person ask me recently, I think a couple of weeks ago, if I were to win the lottery, what would I do differently? And the funny thing is that I would literally still be doing the same thing that I'm doing, but I would just have more resources to reach more people, and to have a larger impact. And so once I answered that question, I was like, wow, okay, I know I'm on the right path.
I love
And so
that.
that
Yeah.
was a great question. I'm really glad I got asked that question. But yes, we have ups and downs. The current situation in Southwest Asia obviously doesn't help one bit. People are scared to travel. A lot of people, there's a lot of uncertainty going on right now. People don't really know what's going to happen, but
Yeah.
we just, we have to have to keep going, basically.
Yes, and in those lines, like you were mentioning, like starting something, a company, it's not easy. And like I think that every path, every journey comes with challenges and lessons, but also with moments of joy and things that you feel proud of. So let me ask you, what's for each of you, what has been like one lesson that really stick with you, and what has been one moment of pride that you feel proud, like I'm making this happen or I made this happen, like I feel proud.
I think for me, the best part is the people we meet. Not only the people who are like book with us, but the people we meet in every country we work in. It's amazing. And I don't they're actually friends now. So we would be messaging each other on Instagram. We'll be talking about different like developments in the countries and also perspectives because you get to learn from so many people we would never have met
Yes.
otherwise. Like we might have been traveling, we might have been in our own bubble. Like even I'm Pakistani. I never traveled Pakistan like we did with our tour. I would never have met those people. So I really think for me that's the best part. And what really I mean is great when people are messaging us, our guests as well. They're our friends, and they're like, "Oh, when are you launching to this destination? I want to travel with you. When's your next trip coming up?" And the people are rebooking because they love the first trip so much. And I think that when the first time it happened, means people were like, "She's rebooking. This person just rebooked. This is amazing." And like she was like, "Yeah." And like I recently we had someone book a third trip, which was absolutely insane to us because when we
Wow.
started, we were just like, "Yeah, maybe people will book. Maybe people will like this idea." But
I love that.
it's really amazing to see that happening. And I think that is also adds to the motivation. I mean, we'd be doing it anyway, but it really does add to the motivation.
I love it. And one lesson from this journey, yeah,
One lesson.
at the next step.
Yeah, maybe have a bit of a plan before you start something because we really just went in with not a plan to our name and we've been kind of learning as we go along. So a little bit of a plan would have been nice, but you know what? It's fine. I think we've learned a lot in the journey and I don't
Yes.
think we would be able to speak with this much confidence about the hybrid tours if we hadn't learned everything along the way.
Yes, I agree. We learn by doing.
I well, like I said before, the work that we're doing is very motivating. The people that we encounter, it feels surreal to travel the way that we've been able to, simply because of something that we were able to create together with other people too. It is absolutely incredible. And at the end of the day, you might be, pictures are to show off the places that you've been to, but what really comes back to is the stories. And so for you and even us as the co-founders, we go back and we tell people, oh yeah, on this trip we met with this person and that person who wrote this book, who was an activist,
Yes.
who did this, did that. These are incredible stories and amazing memories that basically we're never going to forget. But to add on to what Hira said, something that I personally enjoy a lot too is to see the transformation that our guests go through, which I know
Yeah.
sounds quite strange given that our shortest tour is what, 7-8 days long, but we have seen people who are a little bit curious about the world but don't really know where to start, or maybe they feel alienated because they're not, again, we talked about belonging and finding like-minded travelers, where they feel alienated in the community that they're a part of because they haven't met any other people like them, and then they join a tour of ours, and within a few days they're opening up, they're talking about all these different issues that matter to them. And then
Yeah.
for us to see them go back, do research, start reading books, start asking questions, start challenging their own family
I love
members
it.
about their opinions and how they view the world, that is for us just basically planting little seeds too, not just with the people that we work with,
Yes.
also the people
Yes.
who come on
Oops.
our trip.
Sibu, I think we lost you a little bit, that last part. Oh, poor Sibu, because I also hate it when my connection goes like that, like, like I'm inspired sharing something and suddenly that's
The
annoying.
vibe, the flow is gone.
Yeah, yeah. She was explaining so passionate.
Okay. Sibu says she can
Oh,
hear us.
yeah. But you were sharing something so important. I want you back.
I can't. Okay, no, I see where you're back. Are you?
Basically saying at the end is that this might be a bit oh god, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know what the word is that I'm looking for. Sorry, I lost my
Oh,
train of thought.
worry.
But basically, it might seem a little bit righteous of us to write, even in our Instagram bio, like that
Mm,
traveling with us can change you. But not only have we seen it firsthand, we know for a fact that if you're open to it, traveling, going on a
yeah,
hybrid tours would be a life changing experience, and it will completely change the
yeah,
way that you see the world. And that's exactly what we want to develop.
yeah, yeah.
I think the one lesson I have gotten from this journey is that sometimes you feel like you might be alone in this journey, right? Because talking about being outspoken, being humanitarians and advocates about the
Yes,
different topics that we talk about can be quite isolating at times, to be honest. And you feel like the
yes,
whole world is against you. You create content and the algorithm shuts you down, there's shadow
mm,
bans. Then you start getting attacked on social media for your opinions and for literally just trying to raise awareness about different issues that we care about. So that at times can be very isolating, but I
that's
think the main
interesting.
lesson that I've taken out of all of this is that we are definitely not alone, and that there are other
Yes,
people out there who are also doing incredible work. And I know it feels like the whole world is against us, but it truly isn't. It's all about connecting and finding other people like yourself. Goals and
yes,
dreams. I think a lot of it, like I said before, sometimes at times the work feels very isolated, but part of what I dream of is to be able to reach as many people as possible, to continue raising awareness and to continue breaking down stereotypes. And I think that's one of the main reasons why I personally travel, and the kind of message that I try to convey, whether that's through my own personal brand or through the hybrid tours together. I think that's really important to me. And I would, as the hybrid tours, I'm sure I can speak for the two of us, but I'm going to go ahead and say that I would love for us as a company to be seen as a pioneer when it comes to responsible travel and traveling in a way that benefits absolutely everybody who's involved, not just the guests, but also the communities that we're
yes.
working with.
Love it. And Hira?
I think just to add to that, I guess just long-term sustainable growth for the hybrid tours in a way that we are actually
Mm-hmm.
genuinely providing benefits to
Yes,
the places we're visiting, the people who live there, and also to our guests. I think that's one of the biggest ones. But then also, I mean, this might be a bigger one, but maybe like the hybrid
mm-hmm.
tourist standing as not only a pioneer, like Sibu was saying, but some as a way to combat like the divisive rhetoric that is kind of emerging in the
Mm,
world right now, and the fact like there's such a substantial rise in the far right and ultra nationalist movements to stand
yes,
against that and be like, no, like people are not illegal, they're not immigrants, they're not cockroaches. You can't use the terminology against actual human beings, and you're not better than someone just because you're from a certain country or hold a certain nationality or even the
yes,
color of your skin. So I think in a much wider sense, like that is something I also hope for the hybrid tours in the long
yes,
term. And yeah, I guess those are also my personal goals, to be fair, because like that my entire like background is humanitarian work or decolonial practice. So I think it kind of spills over then onto the work. And then also have to get a team at some point because right now it's me and Sibu. We're everything. So hopefully as we grow, just to grow the team as well.
Yes, yes. Oh, I get that. You're going to be having soon a huge team, I'm sure. Like what you're
I
doing,
hope so.
both. Yes, you're doing an amazing job. I love that the Hebrew tours came to life and to just, I don't know, join forces and the spirit and everything behind it. I love it. Like, congratulations on Hebrew tours, and I hope that I can join tours at some point. Thank you so much, both. Oh, Sibu. Well, Sibu, thank you also because I know you are fighting your connection. Thank you both so much, really, for joining me in this conversation. I really love learning more about each of you and Hybrid Tours. You're doing an amazing job. I think that's very important what you're doing, and I love it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having us.